Tell me about your vision.
My vision is that curious people make life worthwhile and entertaining. In 2022, my wife and I were kind of depressed, and so she found a way out. Her way out was essentially, so rather than being quarantined from this virus in this 2,000 square foot house, let's be quarantined in 290 square feet with a bigger back porch. So we took this long boat trip, and that's the vision. And the idea was that we could be around more people who are curious.
Wow, that's awesome. So you decide to do that in 2022
That's right. That's
after two
right.
years of lockdown. That's when you're like, oh my gosh, this is not working out for us, and that's what we're gonna do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, tell me more. So how was that like going out on a boat and doing things that you did after that?
Yeah. So we weren't boating people at all. We'd had a little pontoon. I call it kind of a floating couch, right? And we weren't serious boaters, but we were in a place where we both thought that COVID was going to kill me. I'm pretty high risk, and and we weren't we were letting life happen to us instead of making life happen to us.
Mm.
And so Maggie was depressed at the time. I was depressed, and I came down the stairs, and she was reading this book called "From What Is to What If,"
Mhm.
and that book is all about kind of reimagining your circumstance. And to me, that sounded a little bit like hope, and I just kind of filed it away. And probably 2 weeks later, I came down the stairs, and she was reading another book called "The Great Loop Experience." And the Great Loop is a trip around the eastern United States. And when I got halfway down the stairs and could see that book in her hands, I kind of knew what it was. I knew what the trip was, and I could immediately see what the next year of my life was going to be like.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of weird.
It actually doesn't. It sounds great.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys do after that?
So we decided that we were going to take this trip in 4 years,
Hmm.
and that this kind of planning and this dream would be our way out from under COVID. And
Hmm.
then as we started researching it, it started making more and more sense to us. And we're not adventure people. We've never done anything like this, but we started reading about it and thinking that that's the kind of thing that we'd like to do.
Hmm.
And so then we started talking to people, we started doing some research, and we found that certain locks were going to be closed during the time frame that we wanted to go. And so it was kind of like we didn't want to lose this idea of a dream. And my wife talked to one of kind of the advisors, important people in our lives. Her name was Pat, and she said, Pat, should we take this trip in a couple of years? And Pat said no. She
Mm.
said, there's no time like the present, that you're looking for a dream right now. And if you could figure out a way to make this dream come true now, you should go. And that made so much sense to us. We did. We bought a boat. We started getting used to it and understanding what it was like. And that involved running into a few things. That involved like learning how to work on diesel motors. It involved learning how to captain a bigger boat, and basically learning how to be somebody else, right? Somebody that we read about rather than somebody who we actually were. And we learned to pilot this boat. And 3 months later, we just walked down the sidewalk, walked out on the dock, jumped in the boat, and we were gone.
That's awesome. How long were you guys on the boat for?
We were on the boat for about 9 months. So the trip is kind of, it's been done often, and it works best if you plan it around a year.
Hmm.
And that means that you're going to summer in the north, you're going to winter in the south, and you're going to spend um, the other seasons getting to and from those places. And I don't know if you knew it, but there's a way to get all the way from New York all the way up the Hudson River and across Canada
Hmm.
back into the Mississippi River and on down. And that's what we did.
Wow, I did not know that. I didn't know it was that deep that you could go all the places.
It's
That's
a trip,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, I bet. I bet that is awesome. Ooh. So, that wow, there's this is such a. I think it's a great insights. But that's awesome what you did. So, what would you say? Like, what was the preparation like before you went on that trip?
So I think the main thing was getting in the headspace where it could happen. So I have a job,
Hmm.
like many people on your podcast. I own my business, and I have a job that I could do from anywhere. I teach technology,
Hmm.
and I also write books. And I'd written mostly technical books, but we said, well, we could teach from the water, and we could take this trip as inspiration for another book, and that's what we did. So we started getting ready and understanding what this was going to be like, and setting up ourselves to have internet, planning some courses that we could teach around the Great Loop, and doing all these things to get ready to go.
Wow, that's awesome. And I bet you figure out the finances at the same time. Like, hey, my gosh, like, is the mortgage gonna get paid, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's a great
Right.
blessing that you were able to do it on the water. Were you guys sleeping on the boat the whole time, or did you guys?
Yeah, we were. So the way the trip is built,
Hmm.
you're never very far from a Walmart, or from Instacart or something. So we did
Hmm.
most of our shopping online.
Yeah,
Most people, you can't rent a boat to do this, right? Because nobody wants you to disappear with a luxury yacht, and kind of go for a long time. So
yeah.
most people buy a boat for the trip, and they sell it for the trip.
Uh-huh.
Ours was a little bit trickier because in 2022, you had the invasion of Ukraine,
Hmm.
and what happened after that invasion was diesel prices kind of went up,
Yeah.
and also the places to stay. So all of our planning books said that you could expect to spend, a few dollars for that. I think that our plan said that we would spend somewhere between 50 cents a foot and $1.50 a foot every time that we stopped at a marina.
Hmm.
But because everybody bought boats during COVID, those all those kind of went out the window. But but I think the most important thing is that if you make the plan, and you kind of imagine your circumstances, you imagine a year later having done the trip, it's a lot easier to kind of say what must have happened to make this trip possible. And that's what we did. So we said, rather than learning how to take the whole trip and make all the finances work, we said what we really need to know how to do is go from this place, um, maybe it's 20 miles, 40 miles, some days 60 miles, around the loop. And that's what we did, just over and over, right? And we also wanted to save enough time to stop and enjoy the places that we went. So we probably traveled one day out of three.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Like, it's the first time I've heard something like that. Um, so for now, for today, when you're in Tennessee,
yeah,
and you do all the things that you do now,
yeah,
what gets you out of the bed every now and then to keep doing what you do? And do you have any other trips coming on that boat? Maybe.
yeah. The boat we sold is so, there was a time for this trip, and this 2022 was that time for us, right? It was the pandemic, and kind of imagining ourselves out of this trouble that we were in. you know, from an emotional standpoint.
Mhm.
But so now I would say that this trip has transformed us in the way that we think, right? So our book, which is called Currently Away, I talk a lot about this, about the idea that if you surround yourself with interesting and curious people, it's a lot easier to get out of bed. It's a lot easier to engage with the community and find people who care and dream the way that you do, even though they might not believe the same things that you do.
Mhm. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so now with your vision
Yeah.
and how you live your life right now, where you see yourself going in the future, not the trip, but maybe with your vision, or
Yeah.
maybe there's a trip. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that we're kind of in a place where, I'm not going to take us in a political direction,
Mhm.
but there's no secret that people don't always trust each other and people don't always like each other.
Mhm.
So I think that where I want to go is I want to surround myself with people who are curious about the world. And I want to open my table to people who are curious about the world. So on our trip, what would often happen is that you would basically have your daily adventure, and maybe it was just going around and seeing some beautiful things. Like we saw these locks, which is a way to get from a place that's higher to a place that's lower,
Mhm.
or so basically that. And some of these locks would detach and kind of move you down. It was sometimes we would see high waves, like we saw waves that were 6 feet high,
Mhm.
which for us was a big deal, and for a lot of casual boaters were a big deal. And some days we had really quiet days. But after your day of adventure, one of the things that would happen was we get on our app, we kind of see what other Great Loop people were in the area, and we would have something that we call ducktails, right?
Mhm.
And with ducktails, you'd have this toast. They're good ships and wood ships and ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendships, and may they always be. And so we would have these conversations with people who were from all walks of life. And even though we're not having the same adventures as we go from place to place, we still are trying to open our table in the same way as if we're having those cocktails, and if as if we're living adventures. And it really makes a difference to try to connect in that way to the people around us. And that's kind of what keeps me going in my profession and in my life and in my community.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.